Am I good? Am I in focus? I hope we are, because that's what all this video is about. Hello everyone, I'm David Guerrero and welcome back to another video here on this channel, Many Ways Films. I appreciate everyone that has been following this channel, especially the ones that have been subscribing, leaving a comment down here. All of those things really support this channel and especially motivate me to keep making more videos. In the video of today, we're gonna be comparing, and it's not gonna be a real comparison of cameras because this is the Nikon Z6 and the Nikon Z6 II. I think both are great cameras. I think they're not far different. So that's what this video is about. You've probably seen any other reviews out there, but this is not something like that. I already have this camera. I already love this camera. So I just want to see how different it is comparing it to the Nikon Z6. This is not any scientific test. This is just my opinion. This is just my way of doing things. I hope you like it. I hope this is something that might help you figure if you really need the Z6 number 2 or if you can go for the mirrorless Z6, which is about $500 cheaper than the number 2. At the end of the video we'll see, if we find anything. So follow me and we'll figure it out. Okay everyone, I'm back here to my apartment and I just got done editing the pictures on Lightroom and of course editing all the footage on DaVinci Resolve. And let me tell you that I in fact didn't find a ton of difference between these cameras, but I did find a couple and I think they're pretty significant, at least for me, because they're things that I care about and that makes it worth it for having a superior camera, if you can say. In this case, the Nikon Z6 number 2. One of the things that I noticed, well, first of all, when we're looking at the video, we can see that when it comes to Lightroom for the pictures, I noticed that even that I was using the exact same settings, the image was different. Well, the temperature, I guess, was different. It seems like Nikon Z6 II gives you a little bit of a warmer color. Doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter really what your temperature is or what you select. It's gonna be slightly hotter than on the C6. And maybe I'm wrong. It's just something I noticed today. This is the first test I've done, and I noticed it with many of the pictures that I took without moving the camera. I am gonna say that it was a very windy day and there were clouds coming, passing by, so that might have affected. When I was trying to, or when I set my camera to record 120 frames per second on the C6, the autofocus wasn't working when it comes to face tracking. And there is a setting where you can select for the face tracking, or the auto focusing on the camera can detect eyes and faces, but it's not as good as in the Nikon Z6. And even though the focus is good, you can't tell by looking at the camera. I don't know if that makes sense, but you don't have the yellow box telling you where the camera is focusing at. And I mean, while it's not a big deal, it might be for others. What it bothered me is that it doesn't work anyway. You can't have auto face detect when you're shooting at 120 frames per second with the C6, but you can select the camera to focus on a specific point and keep focus on that specific area. The problem is that if you move out of that thing and you're using a tripod, or there's no one moving the camera selecting the focusing point, you're just not gonna be on focus. And on the Nikon Z6, when it comes to regular focusing, both at 24 frames per second, I noticed that the Z6 has more jumping on the focus, meaning that it gets in and out of focus for half a second. And the Nikon Z6 II does it, but that doesn't do it as much as I noticed it doing it on the C6. And I mean, I can tell you this by experience. I've had the Nikon Z6 for a year already, and the Nikon Z6 II, I noticed that there's a huge improvement on the autofocus. I've never owned a Sony or a Canon, and people say that Nikon's autofocus is trash, like it's bad, far behind compared to those. They gotta be something out of this world, because the autofocus on the C6 II, it's amazing. And yes, I've come from the DSLRs on the Nikon and from the C6, but I think it's amazing. I love it. I don't have any problem with it. If you do, I understand it's a tool. It's okay. That's all I'm saying. They are my color corrections, so I just apply the same to both. And I did notice that the Nikon Z6 does not just a little bit, but next to a little bit better when it comes to bringing the shadows back. When it comes to the highlights, I think they're about the same. I didn't notice a huge difference or any difference really, but I did notice it when it comes from the shadows, bringing them back. When you try to bring them back, that's something I noticed, and I really like that. I thought that was something really cool, because I like to underexpose my pictures. That's something I've done, and some people have asked me, how do you do to get such well dynamic range? And while Nikon has an excellent dynamic range, I underexpose because it's harder for the Nikon to turn down the highlights and things like that, which does really well. But I feel like, at least in my personal preference, I like to bring back those shadows or darks up. Overall, I want to say both cameras are great. I'd say if you're just jumping to mirrorless, and it's the first mirrorless that you're gonna use, especially going from Nikon to Nikon, from DSLR to mirrorless, and you're not interested on Canon and Sony, or you're thinking about it, let me tell you something. The Nikon Z6, it's only $1,500 and it's an amazing camera. You're gonna love it. I love it. I've seen other cameras like Leica's cameras, and the ergonomics are great, but I think Nikon's are better. And the image quality, well, they're superior. They're very similar, and they don't ask anything to the Sonys or the Canons, especially for YouTube, Instagram. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. If you want to support me, I would really appreciate it. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.